Thank you.
Good.
So this is around the power bundle of SFDX and ScratchOps. Now, so Salesforce introduced this beautiful concept of ScratchOps. ScratchOps itself has a journey. ScratchOps, OrgShape, then ScratchOps snapshot. We know what is ScratchOps. What is OrgShape? OrgShape is nothing. So people were used to have difficulties defining the definition file for ScratchOps. So OrgShape is that one time, with the shape of your org DevOps, you can spin up your ScratchOps. So that problem is solved. And recently, I won't say recently, in 2019, they kind of worked on ScratchOps snapshot, where kind of, it is possible to have the data as well you create snapshot of your existing ScratchOps, and with that snapshot, you can create further ScratchOps. And this is more or less. Someone said.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one thing related to ScratchOps.
Yeah.
So you said like ScratchOps is something like Docker, right? So
yes.
Like Docker is something, let's suppose I have, created a program inside, it's in an image, like a small program is present inside image. I have created that. I send it to, it will run on your system as well, right?
Correct.
That is something related to Docker. So like I wanted to ask like how ScratchOps will work. Like ScratchOps is like, let's suppose I have a sandbox, right? So can I create a Scratch org in that sandbox, right? And let's suppose I can send that ScratchOps to another sandbox, right? So will this behave like similar Docker, or like is there any difference?
So the concept behind ScratchOps is every ScratchOps needs a DevHub. DevHub is nothing but a controlling body which will control that ScratchOps, and only productions orgs are given the capability to serve as a DevHub. So only you can create a ScratchOps only from a production org. So you need to enable your production as a DevHub, and from that you can start creating a ScratchOps. And by sense of when I say a Docker, it's similar to Docker because you can create it anytime, you can destruct it anytime, and it takes fraction of seconds to kind of create it. And irrespective, differently from a sandbox, which takes a lot of time, kind of spinning it up, copying all the data. So purpose of ScratchOps is to make a lightweight org similar to production, so that whatever in the sense of features and settings, similar to production, so that the metadata what you are deploying in your production is kind of deployable in the ScratchOps. That is the sense from where it's a lightweight Salesforce application. That is why I always compare it with a Docker.
Okay.
If I'm making any sense.
Okay. Yeah. Just one small question. Another small question is like, in which scenarios we should go for ScratchOps? Like you have said, it is something replica of production, right? So
yeah,
is there any valid use case, right? Like where I could think of like, in this scenario, I should create ScratchOps because I have a sandbox. I will do development in sandbox, right? All the testing will be happen in sandbox, then it will go to the production, right? So I just want.
What's the proof that your sandbox is, the behavior of your sandbox is going to be equivalent to your production? Because let me give you a scenario. Because suppose there's some BAU, business as usual change, something that was deployed to your production, which is not there in your sandbox. So what measure will you take to kind of, do that comparison? So, or some feature is a production only feature, which got enabled on your production. ScratchOps is valid for any development use case, be it a small project, be it a large project. Because when the other person, because what will happen is if you are doing directly in your dev work, sooner or later you are going to shift from the source of code. You are definitely going to miss checking in your change from the VCS. With ScratchOps, that is not possible, because after every month you need to, or the DevOps guy need to spin up a ScratchOps. He needs to deploy that may be a requirement, and that's the most common requirement, that you may need to deploy that entire source code into that scratch org before giving it to the developer. So before a developer gets that scratch org, it's already validated that whatever is there in my production from the VCS I've already deployed in the scratch org.
Okay.
So from that aspect, scratch org serves you as the best source of truth.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah. Hey, Varun, do you mind if I
Sure thing.
add my perspective on it? So, Dikshit, the key difference is that scratch orgs are disposable. What that means is, you have a very complex org, right? You have CPQ, you have a whole bunch of things, and you want to test something out. If you create a new sandbox, there are two issues with that. One, every company has a limited number of sandboxes, and two, I just want to try something out and not have to worry about it. Today, like we probably have 150 of these sandbox, dev instance, this, right? All of us have, right? Like a whole bunch of pointless orgs because I wanted to try something. The key difference with scratch orgs is you can, spin them up in minutes, go to SFDX or some command line prompt or somewhere you can spin it up. You use it, you try something, maybe you found some open source tool, something you want to test, wrote some script, gave it to someone to try and sample something out, and you don't even care about it. It automatically gets deleted after a week, right? Like it's a completely throwaway idea. So think of, them as different in the sense that sandbox has permanency. Sandbox has very specific purposes. I have dev sandboxes. I may have a full copy where I'm trying performance, I'm doing training, right? Like a lot of very different business purposes or technology purposes. But the whole idea of a use and throw org, just because you want to try something, that until Salesforce released the whole idea of scratch orgs, you had no choice. You had to just muck around in sandboxes. Then something got screwed up. Then you have to refresh. Some of those refreshes only happen once in 30 days. So scratch orgs take away all that. And to Varun's example of Docker, the whole idea is that, if you look at open source development with Docker and all of this, these things are called containers. So the idea of containerization, these are like those big shipping containers that you see right on top of a truck. If I'm Samsung and I'm shipping cell phones between Korea and India, I don't want to know what ship they go on and all that. I want to throw it in a container and let it go on a truck and then let them figure out. So the whole idea of containerization is that as a developer, I don't want to know what operating system it's going to run on, what other libraries it needs to run, what infrastructure components it runs on. So all of that is very packaged and oblivious to me. I don't have to know. I don't want to know. I just want to write my 20 lines of code, make something run and move on. So the whole idea of DX is like, it's sort of the Salesforce interpretation of containerization and Docker type things, very disposable, but where you don't have to know everything about everything, right? You don't have to know how my CPQ is configured. You don't have to know my remote site settings. You don't have to go give somebody a permission set. All of that is inherited from the production org that you're creating these scratch orgs from. And then when you're done, you don't even care. You move on to doing whatever you're doing. They'll automatically get deleted after a week. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, just a small question. Let's suppose I have deployed something to production, right? As part of my deployment. Okay, so I want to test it out, those feature on production. So can I create scratch org and test it out like without affecting the production's data? Like, is that be a use case?
Yeah, scratch org is a copy of scratch org is like a sandbox that dies after 7 days.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Back to you, Varun. Sorry, I didn't mean to kind of.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just to add, previously it was 7 days. They kind of improvised and did it 30 days sometime back. So that helps in the sprint cycle, like one scratch org per sprint for the developer. So you can design your sprint cycles, accordingly. So that's more or less that's about scratch org shape and scratch org snapshot. And from 2016 to 2022, they are heavily investing Salesforce in the DX, and you have it all was announced in Dreamforce 16. Then in DX, Pilot became for org shape, and GA was for DX, and then Pilot was on for snapshot. Since till now it's not in beta. I'm sad about it. Org shape are in beta in beta 21, and I'm still waiting for the org shape GA. So that's according to this. We need to see what's the Salesforce motive and what is their intent and vision. So this is a simple GitOps branching methodology. I'll just quickly go through few things. Like, so for every once you have your master branch, so in Git terminology it's like branches. So from master branch, there are two infinity branches, develop and master. So develop is the continuous branch in which a developer is working continuously. Once a sprint is developed, changes go from develop to master, and from master things get deployed to production. And this is a recommended cycle, a GitOps cycle. So from develop, if for any developer, we can spin up a branch containing the entire metadata. A developer can work on this metadata, and things can be, every feature branch can be mapped to a specific scratch off on which a dev is on which a dev is working. After development is complete, things get checked into develop. From there, maybe to dev and SIT, then from here to release branch. Release branch gets spin off after the development is complete. Things are tested in UAT with the release branch, and then things can be, after a successful things can be deployed into my production. So this is a recommended branching model if you are starting off, and there would be deviations here and there if multiple projects are coming in. Deployment architecture, a simple schematic use case. In the IDE, a developer is working in VS Code, checking in and getting changes from the scratch off. Two is the scratch off, pulling and pushing. Then after a successful maybe change validation from within 1 and 2, commits the change in the local Git client, let's say Git bash, and then 3 runs to my server, which is GitHub or GitLab. Things get pushed to server, and from the server it further can get deployed to various other scratch offs, because maybe there somewhere there is a developer too who wants to merge dev one's change into their scratch off. So, and then there comes a build and deploy tool, say Jenkins will come and push the change into 7, which is maybe INT or dev. After successful INT or UAT, again 6 will run, and changes will be deployed to your production. So it is a very simple cycle, and you will say like it can be done within a day, but there are few challenges. Biggest challenge is acceptance. So I have personally faced that there's you need to accept this change, but in your coding methodology, in your business requirement refinement. So there is going to be a change. So adaptability to change. Then sprint cycle planning gets a little you need to plan it properly for all the milestone activities which are going to go out there. Then you need to see how you have to install all your DevOps tool stack, Jenkins, Sonar, or Git infrastructure on premise or on cloud. And that's where build versus buy race comes up. Or code analysis, which code analyzer, how you need to integrate, whether you need to integrate during check-in or you need to integrate it during the deployment or validation. And so this is what I want to show you. Whoever is working on SFDX based model, this is the intent of Salesforce from where it started. So this is a comment, I believe, from 2019. So if you see in the other changes, we are going to, so it's a race between Madapi format and source format. Metadata API format is being used from a long time, and Salesforce recently released source format, and people started changing everything to source format. But no need to go this fast, because the purpose why source format was released was to test out things on the source format, and what is working in the source format will be integrated to Madapi format, and source format would be deprecated. Which is like, if you see in the other change, the first point, we are going to add the additional selectivity options to Madapi deploy retrieve that are currently available on source deploy retrieve and then deprecate source deploy retrieve. So this is something that we need to keep in mind, whatever cycles we are building. So I've included the reference article for this, and it's from the GitHub Salesforce project. So overall, this is the bottom line that, and I'm reading it out specifically because that's the bottom line. An organization may or may not need a complex DevOps governance. It's okay, change sets are good for you. That's fine, do it. But recommendation is to evaluate whether you need a complex or a intermediate level DevOps architecture or not. If we are not going to evaluate it should have been done yesterday. If still we are not going to do it, so it's going to kind of burn your production. It's literally going to burn production. You're going to get escalations, things are going to get overwritten and whatnot. So this is all kind of I plan to share, given the kind of the time limitation in which I have. So we can further plan for workshops, Aniket and Saurabh, if those are required, but I kind of wanted to modulate it more from the governance and why DevOps perspective. Other than that, there are some technical giveaways which I want to give from my side. So there's an awesome browser, Brave browser, which is built on Chromium framework. If you're using a Chrome browser, it's better than Chrome browser. I personally felt it and I'm using it. And if you want, you can give it a shot. And other than that, for your, for any new release which Salesforce is bringing in, there is an 1-minute release notes option by Ashish Agarwal. Great guy. And his things are different. Daily while going to sleep at night, you read it for 1 minute, you get to know, okay, this is included in this sprint. This can impact you. You can plan your next day. So this is from the technical giveaways perspective. And any questions?
I have one.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I was just
no. Yeah, go ahead, Dixit. Go ahead.
Yes. I was just keen to know about that. You have shown that 4 steps challenges, right? Okay, so there was something I just wanted to know about CI/CD, implementation. Like as a developer, right? Can I have seen in many of the projects, people have implemented tools like Circle CI, in order to deploy. Like CI/CD implementation has been done. As per developer point of view, can I do that in my DevOps? Like, is there any specific material or internet or like step-by-step guides?
There are n number of tutorials out there, Dikshit. I'll make sure I'll share something from YouTube, and also I am going to share some specific situations. You can go for Bitbucket. There are going to be many tutorials out there. If you simply want to do, I'm pretty sure there's a YouTube tutorial out there for Bitbucket or your local install. Let me know if you need any help. Just ping me. So just give a short search on YouTube, Bitbucket CI/CD for Salesforce. You should get it. If not, just reach me out. I'm definitely going to help you.
And I guess you guys can check out Varun's YouTube channel. I think it's ForceOps, right?
Yeah, it's ForceOps. Yes.
So some of the stuff you can get it there, and we can also reach out to you from there, right? You might be having a
definitely, yeah. So all this is coming up because I know how it's there on YouTube, but I feel there is a disconnect. So I don't want to do anything redundant, but I want to reduce that that disconnect. That's it. That's the intent.
Okay. So I just had one small question, Varun. It could be a little silly one because as I'm very new to the CI/CD operations. Is it possible to automate refresh of sandboxes from CI/CD tools? Or you'll have to always do it, refresh or create sandboxes from your production?
And so I'm sharing this secret with you. So there is a plugin from Accenture. That's an open source plugin to your SFDX. Let me, my screen share went. Did I lost the privilege?
Yeah. No, you still have it.
Yeah.
Now I can see.
Yeah. So there's a JS Rocket tool, something. Let me JS Accenture Salesforce Force Rocket. I'll share you the link, but there is an extension with which you can trigger the refresh. As I can recall.
Oh, cool. Okay. So you don't need to go to production org and manually do it.
Just give me some time. Let me reconfirm it. JS Rocket SF Rocket by Accenture. You can see my screen, right?
Yep.
This SP Rocket Salesforce. I have it. So that's
no worries. I mean, you can let me know later.
I'll ping you the link definitely. But there's this is the one. Accenture SFR Rocket. I think you see org sandbox SFR Rocket org sandbox refresh.
Hello friends.
Okay. Cool.
Do explore this. This is a beautiful tool.
Sure. Thanks.
Hey Varun, I have a question. So
Sure.
all of this DevOps, CI/CD, all this stuff, is it really useful for very large organizations and maybe medium size, or is it also good for like smaller organization? If you have, I don't know, 2-3 developers, under 1,000 users or something, 500 users, should I think about them, or is it only if I have like really large setup and I'm working with a lot of on-site offshore people?
So it basically maps to the vision of the organization, because we need to see. So so just to give you an example, how do we assess if DevOps is really necessary? So we can see their growth maybe in past 6 months, if there's a growth in their licenses, if there's a growth in their deliverables, if they plan to kind of onboard a new cloud, or this pretty much maps to their vision, how they, or if they're fine with Salesforce and developers are also fine working in, there are no conflicts or two developers sitting with each other. If there's no need, there's no need. But still we can offer them as value add. We'll give you a small repository, maybe on free account of Bitbucket on that organization's name, and just extract their source code and keep it there. So I mean, it's the extent of DevOps, and that would vary from organization to organization based on their needs. But definitely from the source code, source of truth perspective, I feel there should be some level of DevOps, or some level of VCS integration which should be there. If not entire automate. Change sets are okay. Change sets are not bad. If there are not many changes, change sets are pretty much okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Okay, anyone else has any questions for Varun?
Yeah, Varun, I have one question for you. I'm just extending to what Aniket mentioned regarding the refresh of sandboxes. So what is an advisable frequency for refreshing a sandbox? Like, take an example, we have a dev sandbox and then integration environment and then production. So from CI/CD, your code is getting deployed from lower environment to your production. So how much, like, what should be the frequency to refresh that INT or middleware sandbox?
Rather, I'm not going to lie to you giving the what Salesforce actually recommends, because what Salesforce recommends is very ambitious. There's some recommendation from Salesforce as I can recall, but that is very hard to achieve, because if your org has gotten big or complicated, the refreshes are something. If I talk about full sandbox refresh, maybe you are going to do it once or twice every year. That too, you have to push a lot for it. to get that, because once a sandbox box goes to refresh at least 2-3 days in a good average or with average number of components, it takes good 2 to 3 days minimum. So I'm not going to lie to you, but it will definitely vary from, because you need to adjust that timing in your sprint cycle. And there it is where it gets complicated, because you cannot deploy on that or till that duration. And how many sandboxes would you have as part of your deployment, deployment lifecycle? Maybe 3 or 4, dev or INT or UAT or something before production or hot fix. So it would really, so if you really want to check, just go to your production, and you see status of, as soon as the status of the sandbox come as ready for next refresh. So that I see that is the recommendation of Salesforce. So for dev sandbox, as soon as it is refreshed within a day, they say you can refresh it now. But that is definitely not useful or ideal. It doesn't make any sense, right? I just refresh it after a month. If I have to refresh it, that 2-3 days of effort. And that is where I see that cloud compliance have a huge scope to reduce that post refresh activities. They have a huge scope out there. So if maybe some POC can be built, that's definitely going to help cloud compliance. And saying it out loud, Saurabh and Aniket, because I felt that there's a huge potential. If that, because I heard Saurabh's, I was going through cloud compliance's video. That would be obvious because I have a presentation tomorrow. So I was going through the videos, and in one of the videos, Saurabh did mention that you can control the custom settings and few of the endpoints post refresh. So if they can be done, so at least 1 or 2 days of effort of the team could be saved, which is big.
Just adding on to Radha's question. So she was asking about the frequency of refresh. So couple of days back I saw an article on LinkedIn. I believe there is some tool which calculates the refresh timing, like when your sandbox could get refreshed. I'll find it out, that article, and maybe there's
Definitely.
something. So I will share with you.
So let me see, Salesforce refresh
Calculator, something like that.
recommendations. No, it's for few things it's hard to calculate. Definitely they have some thesis, but do share it across. I would love to see it.
Yeah, I'll share.
If you instance refresh maintenance. Welcome to Salesforce. What is the instance when that this something is wrong today with help site? Keeps on loading again and again. Nothing out there, but there's definitely going to be something. I'll also find out and share it across. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks.
I'll
Thanks for
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.